hope most of you are aware of the technology. So this would be a refresh and also an add-on to the additional features that have been released in version 9. Okay. So the topic is pretty simple, and we'll try to make it interactive. So we'll talk about Global Protect VPN. Okay. And when it comes to VPN, many people they believe VPN is the only level of security that can be achieved when it comes to remote workforce or remote access VPN or remote access network. So uh, when you talk about remote access, what comes to your mind? Just a secure tunnel from the branch offices or from remote places, from mobile devices, mobile users to the headquarter or main data center. But that's just not enough. When we talk about security in terms of remote access, context and access control are the main things, and not many people are aware of that. So previously, unlike or I would say in the previous days, olden days, traditional VPN would just depend upon establishing connection between the remote office or remote user and the head office or the main data center, without taking into consideration the context or the parameters on which security can be established or can be improved. So what is context? Context is basically that can help any administrator of an organization improve the security. So gone are the days when people used to connect from, or it was accepted that it is to connect any person. Okay, now it's possible, and but you should make sure that not device from any even through a secure tunnel or in a secure way is the best security. Or the policies user or just a machine or remote PC, tablet, mobile device connecting to the main network or headquarter or data center. It is context also is comprised of the user. Okay, user department or the priority of a user, an organization, how important it is that person is. So all this contextual information adds up to the risk of of access, or how risky that access could be when you enable remote access to an organization or organization's network. Using, okay, based upon these, your remote access control, I would say, should be configured or should be based on. So you cannot uh, have a simple username and password based access for an engineer or for a contractor who is dealing with the organization. I would say thrice of or four times in a month. Okay, whereas if you have a higher level management employee or higher manager person who is who wants to connect to the organizational network from another country, you definitely have to impose higher or better security policies for him. So compared to an employee who has, who is not a manager at a managerial level, and compared to an employee with highest grade in the organization, you will have to decide different policies. So for the employee, a normal employee, you can have a username and password based access, but you cannot definitely have him access to critical applications or or to all applications through the enterprise network through the secure tunnel. And depending on his requirement, you will have to limit the access, the level of access that he gets over the corporate internet and network. Similarly, When it comes to a higher grade or manager or managerial employee, you will have to make sure that you are implementing highest level of security, definitely, because you cannot afford to lose his credentials. For example, by chance, if some kind of attack happens and his credentials are stolen, then it would be a major threat to the employee or to the the person as well as the organization. So at such depending upon this context, you will have to consider what location he is residing in. So you should make sure that the policy is limited to not just his device, but his user account, strictly to his user account, strictly to the resources to which he wants access, to the applications that he wants access, and using not just username and password or just basic authentication methods, but also elevated ones like multi-factor authentication with token, SMS, and OTP. So the basic of establishing a secure remote access VPN is, I would say, context and access control. Yeah. So that's what we even discussed in the previous slide. That nowadays, as due to remote access, the requirement of remote access or work from home, and seeing the situation which will exist, the situation will exist for quite a few more months now, and it is unpredictable what will happen. You have to make sure that you define your policies and define security, I would say, regulations as to what the users will be uh, having, as their remote workforce devices. So will they have BYOD or will they have enterprise devices? Based upon that, you will have to make sure that what kind of access, what kind of regulations you will be applying for those employees. So for a contractor, the security policies will be different. For an employee using enterprise devices, the security policy will be different. For an employee who is using BYOD, the security policies or access control policies will be different. And for an admin who needs full access to the internet, the security policies will be different. And moreover, uh, based upon the context and the level of access, also you have to decide the criticality of the services. Okay, so all these things, the priority, the context, and the access control combined together can form a highly secure remote access infrastructure. Now, when you talk about Palo Alto Networks and Global Protect, yeah, so traditional VPN, when in the olden times when you had to overcome all these challenges and establish or set up a secure and compliant remote access setup, you had to basically use multiple technologies. So like VPN concentrator, MFA solution, NAC solution, so that you can, and even the existing directory services. So all of these technologies definitely are having different are acting as different silos, have different software, different hardware, and has to be integrated together. But it is always a good approach to have as much options or as many features in a single solution on a single pane of glass to configure, administer, and monitor, troubleshoot, and report. Okay, so if you see the traditional VPN and the Global Protect VPN, Palo Alto Networks have done a huge amount of work and tried to develop a solution that can provide you with compliant, highly, I would say, highly comprehensive, featured, and a solution so that you can manage in a single pane of glass. So you can see it provides you with not just remote access and secure connectivity, but also prevents you with from threats. Okay, so depending upon the applications, which are corporate or internet or cloud-based applications, and it also can be deployed on premise or on cloud. So so let's talk about the enterprise or the most common corporate enterprise network. As you can see, if you have to make sure that the mobile workforce or the remote workforce is secure, you have to make sure that they are given access to their corporate network. Okay, and not just that, their devices are checked for being compliant. So when I say being compliant, it could be a list of security checks like do they have endpoint security installed on their laptops? Do Is their operating system hardened? Um, are they using a password policy or a password which is following at least 8 characters, alphanumeric special characters policy, so a complex password basically. And you know, uh, also when they access, is the access being logged, or whatever the activity they are doing is being logged and audited for regulations and reporting purposes. So what solution does Palo Alto provide? It is Global Protect VPN. As we talked, it is on premise as well as over the cloud now. Okay, and it extends basically the same security that next generation firewall provides for the enterprise corporate network to the remote offices and mobile users. So you can from this you can understand that the core platform is the NGFW firewall. Okay, so which controls the VPN establishment and disconnection, the security policies, the traffic inspection, any kind of threat prevention features. Okay, and providing with the full traffic visibility. So the global red VPN works in alliance with the NGFW technology, and there are many other technologies that are not the focus of this session, but they are Wildfire, Palo Alto Wildfire, which is the sandboxing, and even there is something called Palo Alto Prisma, which is cloud access security. So there are multiple technologies, but mainly Global Private VPN works strongly in alliance with NGFW to establish VPN, to establish secure access to the corporate network and to the internet through the corporate network. And as you can see, it also is not like traditional VPN where just a VPN establishment and access is possible through the to the VPN. It also makes sure that your security posture is compliant and you're allowing the right people to the right resources. Yeah. So that's what we talked about. So adding to that, we have now when we started with the next generation firewall, Palo Alto had only Global Protect VPN for on-premise. But now, as the years have passed by, they have also established, they have grown basically, and they have VPN flavors now in cloud, in public, as well as private cloud. Okay, so Prisma Access is Palo Alto's own cloud-based VPN solution for cloud-based applications and or cloud-based infrastructure. And when it comes to public cloud, Palo Alto VM series firewall provide the users and the organizations or the corporations with the capabilities to to have remote access VPN over the cloud infrastructure. So moving on, so what how Global Protect is different when it comes to establishing a secure remote access infrastructure. It is through capabilities like rapid troubleshooting, full visibility, and comprehensive reporting. So I'll just go back to this slide again. Okay, so now if anyone is not aware, Global Protect is a proprietary technology from Palo Alto for VPN, okay, policy-based VPN. So I'm assuming that everyone knows what is policy-based VPN and what is remote access VPN. So there are two components in Global Protect. There is a Global Protect portal and there is Global Protect gateway. And not everyone is aware of this unless you have expertise on Palo Alto. So there's a good chance. This is a good chance for you to understand how the technology works. So it's a proprietary technology. So uh, you know. Uh, it has its own benefits when it comes to using Palo Alto technology. Okay, I mean, in unlike any other client, which is a free client or a third-party client. So a Global Protect client connects to something called Global Protect Gateway, which is like a central hub where authentication of the users happen. Policies are defined as to depending upon the context, which user from which location, depending upon the the designation or the priority of the user, will access which resources and what kind of control that person will have. So all these policies are configured on the Global Protect gate, on the portal, and once the client authenticates the portal, he receives all of these policies. Okay, and then there is a second component which is Global Protect gateway. There is portal, gateway, and then client. The client first authenticates to the portal, takes or receives all the policies and also the information that onto which gateway it can connect to, or it should connect to get access to the corporate network. So in most of the cases, where you have a small deployment or standalone deployment, I would say, or a distributed deployment. So there is the portal and the gateway is configured on the same firewall. Okay, so it's basically two components on the same firewall, wherein the VPN client connects to the portal, authenticates, gets the policies, connects to the same firewall basically, but to another component which is gateway, which establishes secure tunnel. Basically, does the security association and establishes the tunnel and receives the traffic, and the firewall policies, uh, based upon the contextual policies that you have configured or access control that you have configured, the users get access to the required resources. But this sounds easy and also I would say logical when it comes to a standalone deployment, but it is way much better, and it is in terms of automated communication and policy pushing and in the ease of use when there's a distributed deployment. Okay, having portal and gateway on a single firewall makes it much easier to work with, to configure and manage. But it becomes a challenge when you have a distributed deployment where you have portal at one office or headquarter and gateways at multiple branch offices. So if you see the other technologies which have worked in the past or which had started with using co-location technologies to work with distributed remote access VPN, they had many challenges, but Palo Alto did also try their best with Global Protect technology, and they had seen a huge improvement when it comes to the distributed deployment. So that was one thing that I wanted to point out. So now, Global Protect, when it was launched, I would say it had started with version 4, then it improved it in version 6. Now there is it then moved to version 7, 8, and now it is version 9. So with version 9, there has been tremendous number of features added and improvements with the technology. So as you can see, they have made a lot of enhancements in terms of troubleshooting, visibility, and reporting capabilities of Global Protect. So moving on from the troubleshooting, you can see when you log into the NGFW Palo Alto NGFW firewall, and you go to logging section under monitoring, there are dedicated now, unlike before version 6, 7, or 8, there is dedicated logging section or log section for only Global Protect VPN. So in the past, it was part of system logs for VPN establishment and traffic logs when it comes to monitoring the traffic in and out of the firewall. But now it is made much easier, and they have a separate log section called Global Protect itself, so you can see at each and every step, or what are the different steps by which the remote user establishes connection with the portal, how it becomes successful or the failure happens. And at each step, you can analyze, when it fails, why it happened, at what step it happened, so that you can fix it, or you can configure it correctly. So the same thing happens for portal. The same logging happens for portal as well as gateway. Similarly, and another enhancement is the contextual information, like we have been discussing. So you can see the the logs are much more granular, much more detailed. So it not just provides you with the information about the IP address, host name, username, but also the geolocation, the stage at which the communication is happening during VPN establishment, along with other contextual information like uh, username, geolocation, and many other things. So there is another column which has been added called error. So in any kind of a failure in terms of VPN establishment or traffic, I would say disconnection, it will be logged in specifically a column called error. So in case of troubleshooting, when you want to find out any failure in terms of VPN establishment, or in terms of authentication failure, or in terms of traffic disconnection or traffic not being established, you can just filter the logs based upon by the error column and see all the failure logs. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. And you have option. Previously there was no option to filter on the global protect logs. Okay, now there's a separate logging section with much more contextual information and specific filters and specific columns for identifying failure or error logs. So this makes global protect VPN much better when it comes to configuration and troubleshooting. So you will know exactly at what point it is failing and why it is failing. Secondly, it is visibility. So if you have worked on with Palo Alto, next generation firewall and global protect VPN, there is something called monitor dashboard. Okay, and as you know, Palo Alto is known for the visibility, okay, of the traffic and applications in an organization. So previously there was no specific dashboard for identifying information or finding out information about the VPN, Global Private VPN. But now they have specific dashboard and panel, multiple panels to identify the user activity in terms of Global Private VPN. As you can see, if there are multiple portals and multiple gateways, how many connections are being established with each portal or gateway, and also number of connections based upon the location. So they have made huge enhancements or multiple enhancements when it comes to troubleshooting and identifying the reason of failure of VPN establishment or traffic disconnection or traffic blocking. So they have specific panel for identifying the reason, in case a VPN is not established or if the VPN connection fails. So like you can see, it could be device based upon the server, sorry, the client certificate, if it is invalid or if it has any issues, or it could be due to incorrect username and password, or it could be due to communication between the directory server and the global protect VPN. So based upon the reason, you can find out why the VPN establishment has been unsuccessful. Also, yeah, like we said, we already covered based upon the authentication method. So here is a slide which shows you, you know, apart from the reason, is there specifically an authentication failure between the user, and the directory service like Active Directory or multi-factor authentication server, like based upon Ruby's protocol.
If it stays short, we're doing sacrum. If it goes even or long, we're doing the pelvic.
When it comes to
Okay?
reporting, yeah, they have also made
Stay
huge
short.
enhancements
So
on
we're going to
reporting.
start
So
with
apart from
sacrum.
rapid troubleshooting capabilities
Regarding
and good visibility, it has also
this
added
bend right.
many features when it comes
This
to
thing's bend left.
reporting. Okay, so
There's a
as you
lock
can
there,
see,
right?
previously
More pain
Global
that
Protect
way or
VPN,
that way?
they didn't have
More pain
customizable
when I go
reports.
to the right here.
They didn't even have
More pain
dedicated
if
reports.
now
I
what
would
happens
say
when I go
people used to, admins used to export the logs from the monitoring or traffic logs, and they used to form their own reports. But now there are reports specifically, or I would say predefined report templates specifically for Global Protect VPN. As you can see in the picture, there are reports specifically based upon the Global Protect log database, which they have recently developed, and reports like successful portal users, unsuccessful portal users, unsuccessful logins by users, by gateways, and by
Less
portals,
pull.
and many other things. So
Still tight.
previously this was not customizable. Now it has become
Replace. Might
customizable.
drop US and
So
family to home.
also with version 9, they have added not just Global Protect, VPN reports as customizable. They have also made the generic, reporting databases as customizable. Also, uh, they have made enhancements in terms of
Oh, look
role-based
who's
access
calling.
control. So you can see
Ramadan, Kareem Ramadan.
they can
How are you?
admins can now give rights to
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah.
the Global Protect logs and reports
Uh-huh.
based upon the role-based access control. So an administrator who has full access to
Oh,
firewall policies and I would say the management options of the
a
firewall
mistake.
may not have access to the logs
No, I'm just joking. What was
specifically,
the item?
all kind
The
of logs,
clouds, right?
or
Or
VPN
no?
logs. So such kind of role-based access control can be
Okay.
created now
Brook,
with version
party,
9.
party. Hmm?
So now, considering the current
Yeah,
situation,
because
yeah,
this week
how
he
Palo
was there in the
Alto
duty.
Networks is, helping
Hmm.
their customers and
No,
partners
no, no.
is by giving out, free services and
Alhamdulillah.
licenses.
You working from
So when it
home?
comes to next generation firewall,
Working from home? Are you
uh,
sure?
if you're not aware, the NGFW comes with the, free Global Protect VPN feature. So you don't need
I'm
a
also at
license
home.
for
I
Global
wanted to
Protect
finish
VPN to be
something
used on
which
your
I can
hardware
finish when I'm in
or
office.
VM
It,
series
it
firewall.
takes only 1 hour.
Okay, so
Since
you can just
9:30, I'm still doing.
buy the firewall. Even without the threat prevention
One report actually
licenses, you
I'm
can
doing
configure
it.
Global Protect VPN and
That's
have
why I said
site-to-site
it
and
takes
remote
one
access
hour,
VPN.
but whole day it took.
But
And still
when
not
it comes
finished.
to,
I'm thinking to
like
finish
we
at
discussed,
9.
the contextual information and
Same that way
security
people
access
work
control
at
based
home,
upon
you know.
compliant security posture, there is an additional
Yeah,
license called
exactly.
HIP, Host Information Profile, which enables the users and devices to go through a
Hmm.
list of security checks before and making sure that they are compliant before connecting to the corporate
Yeah.
network. But now,
I
due
was
to this
no,
COVID
I was the one.
19 situation, Palo Alto is issuing
Uh
Global Protect subscription, the
huh.
free one as well as the the I would say the feature based, the HIP feature based
Uh,
license
from which
for I would say
hotel?
90 days free of cost and
No, which
without
hotel?
any
Here in.
extra charges on
Ah,
any
okay,
kind
okay,
of
okay, sure,
or
sure.
without any
Which
conditions.
country is he from? Maybe India
Same
only.
goes for Prisma Access, which is I would say Global Protect
Ah,
on
alright,
cloud.
then
So
you
previously
can
it was
expect
called
that.
Global Protect on cloud. This is not
I
the Global
mean,
Protect
they are not
VPN
like that.
for
If they are
on
in lower position, they are
VM series
humble.
firewall.
The
Like we
moment they
saw,
go
there are
to
three
higher
flavors: Global
position
Protect
and they
on
change
hardware,
themselves.
on VM series, and on the cloud. So they previously it was called Global Protect Cloud Service. Now they have made it Prisma Access, which provides you with remote access VPN across the globe for cloud-based infrastructure
Oh,
or cloud-based SaaS applications. So even with Prisma, they have started, they are giving
oh.
free access to Prisma
Is
for
it
90
okay?
days,
I
and
think
they are also
like Indian. I
giving
think only
free,
one guy. He was there
quick
before
start
in India.
professional services
Sorry,
for
not in India.
onboarding
Intercon.
customers. So it is this.
There is
So it can be helpful for existing as well as new customers.
smart purchase manager here.
So that was it. So this was in I would say
I'm just 2 months here or three
in a
months,
crisp
but I
way
know
what Global Protect
who is
is,
where, and
what
I think this
enhancements
is the
have been
same
done
guy. But he's a
with
nice
version
guy. I don't
9,
know how
and
he become rude.
how the
I met
technology
him.
works, and what are the current promos when it comes to Global Protect VPN.